In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at multiple big cooldowns that are going to completely change the pattern, where they're going to take us straight from like a late summer, early fall-like pattern into like a deep fall, almost early winter type pattern, with even some snowfall showing up for some areas on some of these model runs, as we have 3 to 4 big cooldowns showing up on these model runs. And with these, stronger cold fronts and stronger lows are going to be rolling in, so more precipitation for most areas in the central and eastern states is in store as well. With all that being said, let's dive into things, and we're taking a look here at the European model as of today. You heard the intro on the beginning of this video. The last few you have not, and it's not because I wasn't making it. I've seen you guys' comments, but it was for some reason cutting out of my video when I would record it, and then I would take it into the editor. So the video still worked, so I watched it back and I was like, I'm not gonna, record the whole thing again, just on account of that. But it was frustrating me. I went ahead and updated my streaming or my video recording software and stuff, and hopefully that fixes the issue. But I'm sure you heard it today. I'm gonna make sure of it. But we're looking at today, and we didn't show the current conditions at the beginning of the video this time around, only because there wasn't a whole lot going on. We have some showers up here for the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast, and then a little bit of showery activity in the Southwest, but really nothing too crazy. The craziest thing that's happening right now actually is this ridge we can see that is built over the west, and this overall trough that has not fully arrived for the eastern seaboard as of this afternoon, but it is moving in. And when we track this jet stream, it's bowing way up to the north out west and then diving southward into the central states and creating this trough over the central and eastern states. And we've been calling for this for so long, and finally it is here. Let's take a look at what changes as we move towards tomorrow on Thursday, the 23rd. And we can see the four corner states seeing a little bit more activity as far as showers, both in the form of rain and snowfall. We do see some showery activity up there still in the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast here as well. I want to keep going, though, towards Friday here on the 24th. And we see thunderstorms and heavier showers building here for the south central states, as overall more activity is ongoing there. The Pacific Northwest is seeing another storm system move onshore as well, so we're getting heavier rainfall there. And there is still some showers located here for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast due to that trough and overall lower pressure that is located over the east. As we keep going towards Saturday the 25th, you can tell this isn't a very quick moving pattern. We have still the same areas kind of seeing activity here. The Northwest is getting a little bit more active as time goes on, both in the form of lower elevation rainfall and extremely high elevation snowfall, as you can see with this storm system. We also can see there's continued thunderstorms and showers here throughout a lot of the central states as well, ongoing by Saturday. The biggest thing here is that we do see cooler air trending back in for the Northwest, and this should bring some of the warmer air eastward. And that's why that's why we have 3 or 4 troughs, is because the first one doesn't just keep going. It comes to an end and then another one moves in behind it. But when we look at the temperatures later on, you're going to be surprised by how short-lived, if there is even any warm-ups there is between these cooldowns. They're almost simultaneous back to back to back, and cooler temperatures look to just hang out in the east almost the entire model run. Moving forward towards Sunday afternoon here on the 26th, we can see that there is plenty of snow and rainfall happening still in Northwest, more so for the Northern Rockies now as well, that is expanding. And a lot of the activity that was over the central states has shifted eastward more towards the deep south here, with still some thunderstorms and showers ongoing for these areas. And again, the east is going to stay relatively cooler, even though we've seen the west cool down. We do see this ridge is more centered over the central states, and there's still almost a trough over the east throughout this. So we continue looking cold through the weekend along the eastern states. The further east you are, the more of an effect that is. And overall, this activity that was over the four corner states and south central states does meander offshore of the southeast and almost wants to look like a bit of a nor'easter as this becomes a little bit more widespread as far as the activity. It is very close to the coast. This is just going to be something that we monitor moving forward. Looking towards Tuesday on the 28th, though, we can see that this low is very broad, with a lot of low pressure from just offshore of the Carolinas all the way to areas much further eastward here. But the primary low pressure center is further east there, and that's why these impacts kind of die down for the eastern seaboard. This is 5 to 6 days away. I could see this changing and being much closer to the coast, whereas we would see more activity for these areas. Time will tell what ends up happening with that. But by this Tuesday, the 28th time frame, a couple of other interesting things are happening. One of which is that northwest area that was cooler is now warming, and we can see that this coolest air is sort of shifted more towards the central states and then kind of meanders into the east. So this is going to be cool down number 2 that wants to go ahead and move towards the east. And we're going to see that happen pretty rapidly here. By Wednesday, it's already pretty much a ridge in the west, trough in the east, as you can see, with clearly Arctic air being able to free flow from northern Canada straight into these eastern and central states. Really, really impactful. And that warm bubble just kind of builds out west. And this is exactly what we were expecting when we made our fall forecast, our winter forecast, and really it's a continuation of what we saw a lot of last year. Everything's kind of validating so far what our thoughts have been for the overall fall and winter seasons of this year. Really, really interesting. Looking towards Thursday here on the 30th, the day before Halloween, we could see pretty limited activity, a little bit of showery activity in the northwest, a little bit here for the Midwest, Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, and even for the Northeast here, where we do see some green and white mountain snowfall. As we keep going towards actually Halloween, Friday the 31st, I do have some good news for you guys. We've been talking about how nasty it would be, and really it is improving, as I told you could happen when we made yesterday's video. We see a little bit of showery activity here for some of the Rockies and Northern Plains. We also see quite a bit of activity here for the Great Lakes, Appalachian Mountain Range here as well. A little bit of a low offshore of New England there as well. So we're just seeing a lot of different areas dealing with some lighter precipitation, but this is nowhere near as impactful as we were originally anticipating. So let's hope that this trend kind of continues for those of you that are going to have kids trick-or-treating or at least being outdoors that evening. We do see for the west, we're warming up once again, and this is probably going to send in cool down number 3 right around or just after Halloween. So let's move this towards Saturday on November 1st, and we do see not really any strong lows, but we do see a bit of a cold front set up here throughout the central states. This is helping to kind of pull in this cooler air. And we do see that a lot of this precipitation is staying way up to the north along the west coast, way up in Canada. And that is definitely playing a role here as well, as we have this warm, high-pressure bubble building in the west. Once again here, creating this area, just kind of blocking out any activity and this cooler air being sent further southward in the east. As we keep going towards Sunday on November 2nd, we do continue to see showery activity, especially towards the northern states closer to Canada there. That's definitely the way that I see it right now. I guess down the southeast, we do have a little bit of activity there, but mostly these lows are hugging that Canadian-US border there. Very, very interesting. Now, as we keep going, towards Monday on the 3rd, we can see this trough is becoming more and more intense in the east as cooler air is being sent further and further southward. It would be very fitting if November started out on such a cold note, and it does look like that's a good possibility of happening right now. We have a low centered between Indiana and Ohio. This is creating showery conditions throughout a lot of these areas dealing with the cool down, so think more dreary weather in nature. It is also worth noting that we do have a very weak low, but it is still a low pretty close to that jet stream near the east coast, and this would put us on alert for the possibility of some nor'easter type activity happening here. I want to keep going towards Tuesday on the 4th, and we can see this trough is slightly lightening up. It's still very chilly by this point, still much warmer in the west, but we actually have cool down number 4 trying to build out here and perhaps move eastward. Some snowfall for the northern Rockies by this point. Again, this is about Tuesday the 4th. As we keep going, we can see that 4th cool down is, in fact, on the way here with a low there north of New York State and a dragging cold front. Certainly something to watch for. We also end the model run off with a lot of Cascades and Rocky Mountain snowfall. Super, super interesting. Total precipitation here, again, most everywhere east of the plains is doing pretty good. Just a couple dry spots like Florida, the heart of the mid-Atlantic here, which is unfortunate. They kind of need it right now. But there's a lot more areas than those dry spots seeing more precipitation, looking a lot better. So I'm going to look at the anomalies here. And again, there's a lot of areas that need to be above average that are here. or at least near average. We do have this dry spot in here, which is unfortunate. That's kind of a new addition here. And then the Northwest is still above average as well. So this is kind of shaping up similarly to what our expectations were as we were moving to this point in the year. Really, really good news for some. Still waiting on more precipitation for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, but there's, again, more good news than bad news here for most of the nation. Looking at the total snowfall here, we can see that there is plenty expected for the Cascades still. Also the Rockies. Interestingly enough, there's a little less for the Sierra Nevada expected, and that's probably going to be mostly due to these storms, again, hugging that jet stream, which is going to be further northward there in the west. If no storms are moving through here, no snowfall is either for the most part, as we have mostly high pressure and warmer temperatures underneath. And then notice the Appalachian Mountain Range from Tennessee and North Carolina northward through into West Virginia, and then especially up there in New England and eastern Canada, is expecting plenty of snowfall as well. And that's because, again, your jet stream is going to be dipping underneath these guys, and that's going to bring activity with it and colder air. So this is all kind of adding up. Your temperatures on the European model, again, we're kind of going through cooldown number 1. Look at how the East Coast, it hasn't arrived yet. This is as of Wednesday morning. By overnight tonight, it is going to be arriving for most of the eastern states, and it's really going to be taking hold for Friday the 24th, a couple days from now. Again, through the weekend, Saturday the 25th, Sunday the 26th. We kind of just hold on to that cooler air in the east, and then here's cooldown number 2 that goes ahead and moves in, and we really never miss a beat. That one lasts until after Halloween, and then cooldown number 3 comes in, and the second one didn't end either. And then number 4, it looks like there will be a little bit of a warm-up, perhaps, in between cooldown number 3 and 4, but for the vast majority of this model run, there is cooler air just hanging out over the east. So this is insanely different than what we've been dealing with recently. Just can't even find any similarities. The GFS model here, as we go through, we see cooldown number 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is moving in right there at the end of the model run. So we kind of get a very, very similar look. And again, I've said this before, but as long as this warm look here is stacked against the west, you're going to continue to see these cooldowns taking aim at the east over and over and over again. And it looks like that's the pattern these models want to lock us into. As promised, let's take a look at the tropics real quickly. Here's the track for Tropical Storm Melissa. And we have a few different models here. It's kind of hard to see what's going on over here. The main thing is which one heads further west and which one does not. So we can see the Canadian model as of now is the furthest west model. And this one wants to take it over Cuba. It does still turn to the north. And then this one curves in like very, very bad looking storm straight into like New Jersey and New York. Very doubtful when the Canadian model has a bold prediction for a tropical system. You definitely want to take that with a grain of salt. GenCast and DeepMind, a couple of those AI models. The GraphCast as well is in there. These are all models that again are AI. We've been paying attention to the Google model as well. They've been really, really good tools recently with tropical activity, and a few of these are further west than the GFS model here, which is in the blue, and then the European model, which is here in the orange. I think that's the European AI model actually, but still. Those are the furthest east models, and then a couple of your more traditional AI models that are newer to the game here, like the DeepMind and GenCast, are much further to the west, similarly to the Canadian model. The reason this is important is, first off, the further west it goes, the more chance, theoretically, that it impacts areas along either the eastern seaboard or even more unlikely the Gulf Coast here, which we don't suspect at this point at all. But not only that, the further it heads west, the longer it's going to lag in the Southern Caribbean area. And it is in the more favorable areas of the Southern Caribbean. I've been kind of famous for saying the Southern Caribbean is not a favorable place for tropical activity. And that's mostly true for the southern half of the Southern Caribbean. And here it's very, very dry, very volatile, overall not good for tropical activity. But this area here, near Jamaica, south of Cuba, near kind of like Cozumel, Cancun, Mexico there, east of the Yucatan Peninsula, does tend to be a very good area, and it's just hanging out over these rich, rich waters. And the further west it goes, the longer it's going to be in there, the stronger this storm likely becomes, which is definitely going to be an impact for Cuba, the Bahamas, maybe even Florida or the East Coast, like we mentioned. That's much less likely. We're mostly worried about Cuba and the Bahamas here, but We'll move on to the intensity guidance so I can kind of just show you, but a lot of these models, especially the ones showing the further west option, have shown severely strong systems. Anything over category 3 is going to be considered major, and all but one model show that at this point. The GFS model is the only one that doesn't show this becoming at least a category 3 hurricane. So this is obviously quite concerning. We have plenty of these. I think 3 out of 7 showing a category 4 at least, and then we have 2 of them showing a category 5. So there is strong reason to believe that this storm could be a very, very major one that needs to be watched extremely closely. So I'll keep you guys up to date with this, of course, as we just kind of keep going through the days with all of this. So be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.